New Zealand dollars. 6 pounds of rice, 6 pounds of sugar, some oil, some tomato, some meat and things like that. So this is like a heavily subsidized food basket by the government. This can last for 12 days. Then you go to the urban producers and you get the food there, which is 30% lower than the free market. Then you can go to the free market, and then you can go to the dollar stores, that it will be the equivalent to the big supermarkets here. So according to your income, you're participating in different scales. But there is, and that's the truth, capacity for the human society to integrate a big number of stakeholders. And in a capitalist society, they say, no, 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 no. You don't have the sanitary restrictions. No, no, no. You are ruining the local business. You are ruining. It's all myth. It's all a bunch of lies, and you keep paying and paying. And sustaining systems that you don't agree with. And in our case, that happens. No? Some people say, okay, this is a very peculiar place, that Cuba, and because every other place in the world, food is cheap. It's not that cheap. And even for those prices, maybe it's cheap for the income of people from the first world. How many tons of milk are dumped in the sea? How many hectares of olive trees are being destroyed right now in Portugal and Spain? 500 years old trees, because just to keep the price up, and Italy has a monopoly of the olives. And how many people are starving right now? So it's very complex, but it needs to work from the local point of view, and we need to subvert all this market belief that it's like a drug that we have been supplying to us every day. And food is the first step to that.
Okay, but how to break the cycle? How to break the cycle for people who has to go to work a long distance, needs a car because the transport system is atrocious, when they don't own houses, so they cannot grow veggies where they are living. So one thing that we were brainwashed, I don't know much in New Zealand, but one of the things that we criticize in Argentina to Cuba is, oh, you cannot own a house, they are from the government. Do you have a house? You don't have a house either here. But where to plant many jobs for that people, and how to start?
Okay, each person and each group of people have to find a way, but I trust in something that I call baby steps. You know, one by one. You know, plant one fruit tree. And try to relate with the market. Try to grow little things that you can do, and it's step by step. Your life is changing. And it happens in Cuba. Like there was this building, and there was this parking lot, and there were probably 3 people in the whole building who have a car. They convinced those people and the whole people. They built little garage in the back, and they convert this huge parking lot in a garden. There was no soil. But we realized that if you break the concrete, there is a lot of potassium in the soil that's excellent for bananas. For 2 years, you don't have soil. It's construction rubble. But plants can grow there, no? And then you have some time. And we didn't, okay, the society, it's necessary to, some people, they don't get it, no? But we were at some point even more conventional than here. We have 90,000 tractors. And that's the per capita, that the tractor per acre was bigger than the States. And everything comes from the Soviet Union. And these systems, especially in the tropical places, it doesn't work. We were importing a way of thinking and a way of growing thing that came from Europe. And it never worked. And it was very vulnerable, and we realized that. But baby steps is very important, you know. Try to talk to your neighbors, ask about things, and try to save some time. For example, another thing that helped us a lot. When you ask me how far you live from your work, I will say 4 kilometers. I will never measure distance in time. That's obsession. Time obsession. And you will answer me, okay, 40 minutes by bicycle, 1 hour walking, by car, 10 minutes driving. And you fall in that trap. And you want to do more things, more things, more things. You end up isolating yourself. And now you see this, everything is your responsibility, you know. You have to do that, I have to commute, but you do that to yourself. And so at some point it's necessary to stop, relax, and think. But do something. Always in the practical sense, you know. And those little things, those little baby steps are very important.
Something you just touched on earlier, which I think is a very interesting point to make at this particular point in political history. The United States is obviously undergoing a lot of changes, and there's a potential that some of the new leadership would sit down with leadership of your country, for example, potentially take away the embargoes or change the political balance so that it might not be what it is at present. Obviously, if the embargo would go, that would result in a lot of products and services and things being available to Cuba that aren't currently available. My question for you is, if that sort of scenario were to emerge, that the embargo drops sometime in the next year or two, or is substantially changed, what reaction do you think the Cubans would have, given suddenly that all sorts of things will become available, potentially even cheaply to them, that weren't available before, and how do you think the culture might change as a result of that? Do you think they would stay sort of with their organics and so on?
Okay.
Or do you think it would shift to, oh wow, we suddenly have Coca-Cola, let's go for it?
There are many things there, and I honestly have to say that according to my experience, there are a lot more people outside of Cuba worried about the end of the actual state of things than the Cubans itself. No? In the sense of everything is going to change and going to end. We need to end up the embargo. It's something that is really damaging the fabric, and there are Cubans living in the States, and they can see their families once every 3 years. There are terrible things. It's a situation, but that doesn't necessarily mean a transition. That doesn't mean that we're gonna sign a free trading agreement. Nobody. Not even the Rochas, if they come back, not even with Venezuela or things like that. No? But it's this idea, and it's not necessarily the fact of the States also. No? I think that we had enough time, 17 years, and we were afraid, no? To convince people that this way makes sense. And products will be cheaper the first and the second year. This is like what Nestle do. They show up in every country. They sell their dairy products very cheap. They destroy the national economy. And the third year, the produce costs triple. It's happening in Mexico with the corn. They don't produce their own corn, and right now, the American farmers will sell that to produce ethanol. So who's gonna eat tortillas in Mexico? And it's a market thing, no? And we have to take in account that I think that is the most difficult thing for the Americans to swallow. That there is one or a few places in the world where money is not the most important thing in the world. I'm going to put you an example. In Cuba, organic food is cheaper than conventional food. Okay, why? No, it sounds weird, no? And I could say 90% of the food is organic because like one bottle of pesticide is like a black market or something like that. It's like, whoa, it's almost a crime, no?